All right, folks, we are joined right now by our friend Charles Hurt, columnist for the Washington Times. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Steve. How you doing?
I am good. Want to, in case we run out of time at the end, wish you and your great family a very happy Easter coming up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a great time. All right, let's talk about your column from the other day in the Washington Times, which is a great column, and it talks about the comparison, the analogy between Woodrow Wilson 100 years ago, President of the United States, and Barack Obama today. And there are so many similarities, and they're not good, that it's kind of scary.
It's funny. I mean, it's really kind of amazing when you stop and think about it. And all of the big government, I guess we call it progressive. That's the word that they haven't ruined yet, but they'll eventually ruin that one too. But the progressive idea about centralized governments and new world orders are the answer to everything. And of course, freedom is never the answer to anything. But both of them bowed at the altar of big government and big government solutions. And the one thing that both of them have in common that I think is so funny is that they both were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize on speculation that the ideas they'd come up with were going to bring great world peace.
Right, and you say at the end of your piece that posthumously Wilson should be forced to relinquish that Nobel Peace Prize, but it would cause some problems for the current president.
Yeah, I think it would be a little awkward for them. But Steve, I don't think we have to worry about that. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. It's funny. I mean, even though he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, Woodrow Wilson was, for the lasting peace that he gave us in ending World War I, and for the all the great good that the League of Nations was going to give us to make World War I the last war. Oops.
Yeah.
Slight problem there, especially when and some of these exact same historians who laud Wilson for all of that and say that he deserved the Peace Prize will also they cannot make it up. They cannot lie to you. They have to admit to you that yes, the conclusion of World War I led directly to the outbreak of World War II.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the 1913, the act, the Revenue Act that was signed in 1913, and how part of that act under Wilson, of course, was finally the rich are going to pay their fair share. And how, boy, we really haven't come very far since then, have we? In philosophy.
Yeah, apparently not, because these people are still talking about needing to get the rich to pay their fair share. But Wilson, he went coast to coast selling this idea that we needed the IRS to collect taxes. This was going to solve. This was going to. Everyone was going to save money, and all working people were going to pay less money. It was going to ease the amount of taxes that came in through tariffs and booze and tobacco and things like that. And it was going to make simplify everyone's lives. And within 2 years, there's a letter in the National Archives or the Library of Congress, maybe. There's a letter from Wilson to the chief of his IRS, who has busted Wilson himself for messing up on his taxes because they'd become so complex already that we already had somebody messing up on him. And Wilson wrote his IRS chief and asked him to do a busy man a favor, as if the rest of us aren't busy enough.
Right.
Do a busy man a favor and just recalculate all of the what he actually owes and consider it all just sort of an oversight, an innocent oversight by him. Boy, wouldn't that be great if we could all get away with our mistakes like that with the IRS today?
Yeah, it would, but of course that's never going to happen. Well, great work finding out all those parallels. It was really a fun article to read, as you always have one fun column to read. All right, let's talk a little bit about. I want you to hear something. This is the news coverage, the way that they covered the announcement of Chelsea Clinton yesterday on a couple of the networks this morning. Here it is.
George, I'm officially on baby watch this week. Move over, Prince George, though. This morning, Americans have their own royal, or rather presidential, baby to look forward to. Chelsea Clinton making the announcement that she and husband Mark are expecting at an event discussing efforts to advance women and girls.
Well, Charlie, this is not quite as big of a deal as when Prince William and Kate Middleton said they were expecting. But in the U.S., I guess you could say political dynasties might be the closest thing that we've got to royalty.
Political dynasty?
Yeah, political dynasty.
How many Clintons have there been? One. Is that a political dynasty?
That's the dynasty, and here's the of course the evidence of the bias is that when Laura Bush was on the Today Show back in 2013 or 2012, and she announced that her daughter was pregnant. It got no coverage that night on the network news on CBS or ABC. NBC, since I guess it took place on the Today Show, did a 23-second story on it, and that was the end of it. But this is now a royal dynasty baby.
And that one was with the Bushes?
That was a dynasty. That is a dynasty.
Yeah, you can't, and one waiting in the wings allegedly. But that's not a dynasty. This is a dynasty. It is truly, truly amazing. But these people, they all deserve each other. If they want to sit around and ooh and ah over this nonsense, then I hope they spend the next 8 months doing it. And I wish the best for the new parents and new grandparents. I tell you, I for one, I don't want to hear a dang word about any of it.
Well, it's going to be pretty hard to ignore. If you or I say, call Hillary grandma, we're going to be taken to task. But if, Charlie Rose and Matt Lauer and the rest of them call her grandma, it's with affection and love. And and it's so great. So, I don't know what to say even anymore.
We will be playing the age card or the sexism card,
right,
or something like that. And Lord knows if we were to show a picture of her that suggested that she was a little on the old, like a grandmotherly picture. Oh no, we'd get run up the flagpole on that one.
By the way, there's a story at National Journal today. Hillary's new book, by the way, we all know, Charles, she has a new book coming out. We've heard it ad nauseum, and it's called Hard Choices. But the problem is that Cyrus Vance, who was Secretary of State in the Carter administration in 1983, also wrote a book, and it was also called Hard Choices.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Clintons will be the first to say, oh, but the copyright doesn't occur until after the title page. I'm sure they'll come up with some legalistic answer.
But could you imagine if sorry to interrupt, but if George Bush had written a book and called it the same thing that a predecessor of his called his book in 20 years prior or so, they'd call it what an idiot. But I mean, why would you pick the same title?
Yeah, it would be a scandal for months. But in a lot of ways, I think that whether or not they even knew, who knows. But what I think is interesting here is I think it's a very smart title, and the reason is because she's going to have to answer away all of the terrible choices that she made, all the terrible decisions, some of which led to the loss of life that she made as Secretary of State. And this is her opening argument in the great defense of her disastrous reign at the State Department. Hard choices.
Yeah, well, we had one guest yesterday. Remember when she was asked by Thomas Friedman of the New York Times at this forum to name her greatest accomplishment as Secretary of State, and she just couldn't. And one of my guests even said that it was her Ted Kennedy moment when he was asked against Carter, why do you want to run for president or be president, and he had no answer. But she mentioned at that point about being Secretary of State, and it's handing the baton off. I view politics as handing the baton. And a lot of people think that that's how she's going to run for president. That's going to be her. She's going to be the relay race, run the relay race campaign. That she's not going to have to go there with her accomplishments. It's all going to be a continuation of a process that goes from one to the next. There are ups and downs, and you hand the baton off to the next person.
Yeah, but do you doubt that when we look at the royal treatment that her the story of her daughter's pregnancy got, do you have any doubt whatsoever that the entire media will gladly be the handmaiden? In all of that coverage.
They're all gonna provide her with batons. They're gonna fight to see whose baton can be used. I truly believe that. Now, another story about Hillary's popularity, which is interesting because she still, for the most part, blows away or at least beats any head-to-head Republican and certainly any head-to-head Democratic primary challenger in the polls. But her popularity is certainly not at its peak.
Yeah. Now, I think that, and I really, I mean, I know that I'm in the great minority. See, when I've said all along that I still see a huge chance that Hillary doesn't run. And the reason I've always thought that is, there's something up with her health. I think that we just don't know about, and because everybo's acting very strangely about all that. So I think that that's an issue. And then the blunt truth of the matter is she's a lot older than when she ran, and she's got there are a lot of things in the world that she would rather probably do. Or I don't know if there are or not, but there are a lot of other things I would rather do if I were that age than run for public office. But I think that the biggest overstatement that we've gotten from the media and that they're missing is the fact that we are so far outside of knowing what the real matchup is going to be like, and the deep boredom with the Clintons, as with the Bushes, hasn't even really registered yet. And once Americans, turn back to politics, which they're not tuned into right now, I think that being tired of the Clintons is going to take a heavy toll on her, and I think could be strong enough that either convinces her not to do it, or if she does do it, could completely ruin her candidate.
Yeah, going to be very interesting. And one more on Hillary. When that woman threw the shoe at her. Again, I don't have the sound bites at hand to play you, but we did play them in the day after. The media coverage, the disparity between when that shoe-throwing incident and when Bush really almost had his head taken off by a guy who threw a shoe from close range and had to really duck quickly. That guy was portrayed by the media as they called him a hero in the Arab world, an icon in the Arab world, and when he got out of jail early, David Schuster, then of MSNBC, said, good for him. And of course, rightfully so, the woman who threw the shoe at Hillary was portrayed as a criminal. So, and poor Hillary, and she could have got hurt. But you look at the coverage of the two, and it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, no, it's truly incredible. But and I think it's getting progressively worse as the media, the media that you and I think of when we think of the media, as that media becomes more and more irrelevant and sort of shunted aside and ignored by mainstream America, because there are these other options, be it Newsmax or radio or internet or whatever, as people turn to that stuff and these traditional old quote-unquote mainstream media outlets lose their power.
Yeah.
They become more and more shrill.
Absolutely. And you're right. And you know what? It's going to build to a crescendo if she announces, and we know what we're headed for. But that's what keeps our jobs interesting, certainly. And Charles, always great to hear from you, and always great to talk to you and read you at WashingtonTimes.com. And have a great holiday, like I said, with your great kids and family. And we'll speak to you next week.
You too, Steve. Thanks so much.
Take care. That's Charles Hurt, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Tim Graham. We're going to continue this conversation.
We don't just talk about the news, we talk to those making news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.